It's not inedible, it just doesn't taste good. My God. Oh my God. And it's very easy. I'll show you how easy it is. I never made smoked ribs before, but it's going pretty well. It's going pretty well. Going pretty well. Hello, hi, I'm Alicia Wainwright, actress, podcast host, and amateur chef enthusiast, and this is Movie and a Dinner, where I pair a full meal inspired by a film that I love. Today's episode is all about 2025's film Sinners, Ryan Coogler's movie starring Michael B. Jordan. And I actually had the privilege of working with MBJ a few years back, so I was really excited to see him in this movie. It's the kind of film that just sticks with you after you watch it. So naturally, I had to make a meal to match. A whiskey sour with a vampire-y red float to kick things off, quick pickled okra with Szechuan spices, and a full Southern spread. I'm talking 8-hour smoked ribs, mac and cheese, collard greens, and my 15-year-old corn fritters recipe, and for dessert, a classic chess pie. So, let's get into it. Okay, so we're gonna start off with our cocktail, our riff on a classic whiskey sour. Now, whiskey sours were invented around the 1860s, and they're comprised of whiskey, lemon, sugar, and egg white. When you dry shake, that's to shake without any ice, the egg white with all of your ingredients, it just makes the drink so velvety and delicious. And if you haven't had a whiskey sour with egg white, I encourage you to order one if you see it at the bar or make one at home. And we're gonna do our riff, which is the New York sour. So during Prohibition era, which is when Sinners takes place in the 1930s, whiskey was really bad. It tended to have a bad flavor. So they would mask that, bartenders would mask that by doing a float of red wine on top of a sour to mask the bad flavor. That became known as the New York sour. So that's actually the riff we're going to be making, a New York sour. And it's very easy. I'm going to be using Ruby Port because it's what I had and I never use this stuff, so I'm gonna try and use it up. We're gonna start off by adding 2 ounces of rye whiskey to our shaker without ice and do 3/4 of an ounce lemon. Oh my gosh. Very juicy lemon. I store my simple syrup in a bachelorette weekend tumbler. Do 1/2 ounce of that. And then our egg white. Make sure that's got a tight seal. A dry shake. All right, that feels like enough. I'm gonna add my ice. Is holding my drink captive. Oh my God. You don't need a bar spoon, but it is handy for floats. And because port is so thick, I'm only gonna put a little bit on, and I'm gonna go very slow. So let's see if I can do this. I used to be a bartender in college like a gajillion years ago. I was never good at it then. We have a bona fide sinker, not a float. I swear I'm not always this chaotic. I haven't even had a sip of it yet, but we're gonna try it. I love a classic whiskey sour with the egg white. Everything's just so smooth. Hey, wait. Hey, wait. You see that? It's got some float. It's got some float. I'm gonna give it to myself. I think I got it. I wish my college boss could see me now. Look, I can kind of master a float 15 years later. All right, perfect. Now I'm gonna take a deep breath and I swear I'm going to nail the appetizer because it's very easy. For the appetizer, I'm making a quick pickled okra with Szechuan peppercorns. Okra is a Southern staple, but I wanted to give a nod to Sinner's nuanced look at race and culture in Jim Crow era. Specifically with the Chow family, the family that runs the general store that services both the Black community and white community. I love that that detail could have just been in the background of the movie, but Ryan Coogler chose to bring that to the forefront and make that a story point. I just love that he was able to show that Asian people had to sort of toe this line in between segregated Mississippi. So I wanted my appetizer to reflect that. That's why I'm going okra with Szechuan peppercorn. I was able to actually get my okra from a local Filipino food market. This is gonna come together in seconds, actually. I'm gonna show you how easy it is. The first thing you wanna do is flash boil your okra. So you put it in boiling water for about 30 seconds and then pour that off to some ice water to cool. I'm just gonna add these okra to, is that a fly in here? I hate Los Angeles summers. Well, I love Los Angeles summers. I just hate them for the flies. Keep an eye out for that. Just pour that. Then I'm gonna take this and put it in the fridge for a couple of hours to chill. Okay, my okra have been pickling for the last couple hours, so let's give them a taste. They're kind of slimy. They are too slimy for me. This is what happens when you watch someone who doesn't recipe test. I don't know, I don't like this. Cool, awesome. Okay, we're gonna try round 2 of the okra, except this time we are not going to blanch the okra because I can't do that slimy. That was not okay. All right. This is gonna have to be a more legit quick pickle, like maybe 15 minutes, and then we'll try it. All right, it's been some time, so let's try these. Oh my God, so much better. I was like, am I gonna have to cut the appetizer out? They were so slimy, like swallowing, they were like sticking to my throat. This is it, so sorry. This is a learning process for everyone. I don't recipe test. And I'm definitely not gonna share the recipe that the blanching came from, because that was whack. Why would you recommend that? It made it so disgusting. It was so bad. Okay, now we can move on to the main.
Probably your fish sandwich messed up my guts in the first place, using old stale grease.
I ain't never used stale grease, and you know it.
Shut up.
Okay, if you've seen Sinners, you know that catfish comes up in the movie, and so catfish should be what I make for the main, but I don't like catfish. So I'm making ribs, and I'm making it movie themed by making smoked ribs. I never made smoked ribs before, but it's going pretty well. So it started last night when I put my dry rub on my rack of Louisiana style ribs, and I left that overnight so that it could create kind of a wet crust on it. Then I moved it to my makeshift smoker that YouTube helped me sort out how to make. I used a combination of lit charcoal, unlit charcoal, and water-soaked wood chips to create this smoker, and I added water on top of the grate. It keeps the temperature more consistent. So the goal was to keep the smoker at 200, 250 degrees, and I did that right now for about 6 hours so far. So that's where I'm at in the smoker process. So I'm gonna let that go until the smoker dies out, and then when it does, I'm gonna bring them inside and finish them off in the oven where I will add my raspberry glaze. All right, we're going to start with the mac and cheese. I'm gonna add my flour and let that cook for like a minute. I'm gonna slowly add in my milk. This is where I add my salt and pepper. And I actually add white pepper. I've got 2 types of cheese, well, I guess technically 3, 2 different kinds of cheddar and some Gruyere. And then I'm gonna add half a layer of mac and cheese, and then I'll sprinkle a little cheese layer on top, and then I'll add another layer of the mac on top, and then the panko topping. So I have panko with butter and some smoked paprika. Oh, I forgot to mention there's also Parmesan cheese in this crust. All right, I'm gonna put this in the oven. Okay, now we're moving on to the corn fritters. Now, I'm doing corn fritters instead of cornbread because corn fritters are near and dear to my heart. I went to school in Gainesville, Florida, and there was a restaurant where I went to school where they were known for their corn fritters. And whenever I think of the South, I always think of corn fritters, and I love cornbread, don't get me wrong. But I think for this, I wanna do a nod to my nostalgia and do corn fritters. It's super easy to put together. Right, so we're gonna start with a can of creamed corn, and then I like to add fresh corn to this. And then I'm gonna add flour, cornmeal, salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, sugar, some smoked paprika, and then we're just gonna give this all a stir. Now I'm gonna heat up my oil and we can get them frying. For my collard greens, I'm doing a modern interpretation because I could not find smoked ham hocks in any of my local grocery stores. So I'm getting a little creative. We're going a little modern. So we're gonna start by adding some onion and chunky diced bacon to the pan. All right, next I'm gonna add 1 garlic clove. I also am gonna add some crushed red pepper and then carefully add the collards because they're a little wet. I did my best to dry them off, but I don't want to get splattered. I forgot, but I'm also gonna add some sugar. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of broth. My greens have had time to cook. Add some sherry vinegar to kind of brighten the whole thing up, and then some salt. Yum. Oh, I can't believe I'm all finished, honestly. That felt like a marathon. Okay, I'm gonna plate up everything and I can't wait to try. I'm mostly concerned about these ribs in the oven, if they're pull the bone out finished. So let's find out. Oh no! How do I even begin to describe this day? I feel like everything that could go wrong went wrong, and it's such an annoying day. I think I started the ribs at like 10:30 this morning. About halfway through the oven, because the oven was set so low, it like shut off. So for the final 3 hours, when I thought it was slowly tenderizing and cooking my ribs, it was not doing that. It was not doing that. I had to make a decision. I'm gonna call it. The ribs are still in the oven, the rest of them. I pulled 2 off and made myself a plate. I may or may not cut in with me tomorrow trying my ribs officially. I'm sad that the ribs might not be fall off the bone for me right now in this moment. I have a glorious plate here with my greens, my corn nuggets, my mac and cheese, and my ribs that we will not really talk about. The thing with the ribs is I glaze them with a raspberry jam. Then for the corn nuggets, a little drizzle of hot honey. I don't even know where to start. All right, we're gonna start with the mac. Oh my gosh. I just don't eat macaroni and cheese that often. And whenever I do get the pleasure, holy cow. Oh, that's so good. All right, I'm getting a little bit of greens in there too, with some of that bacon and that sherry vinegar. Greens and mac and cheese is the perfect bite. All right, now the corn nuggets. These have been sitting out for some time while I waited for the ribs, so the fact that they're still crunchy. All right, we're gonna go for the ribs. Smoking them just adds this fantastic depth of flavor. They're not falling off the bone, but they're definitely good. I think a couple more hours in the oven, and I'll be singing. I hope this isn't confusing for you either. Typically I film the courses out of order and then reorder them when I'm editing. Yes, it's nighttime. This is technically the last thing I'm doing, but we actually still have dessert left. So we're gonna jump back in time to finish the rest of the video. When I thought about it, I couldn't recall any desserts explicitly used in the movie, which is fine, so then I get to use my creative liberty. And when I was developing the menu, immediately I thought of chess pie. It's a buttery custard, classically Southern pie. It's very simple and easy to make. The name has a lot of lore, which I think is kind of fun. Either people think that the name comes from the Southern drawl of saying, oh, it's just pie. It's just pie, just pie, just pie. So then it kind of became chess pie. And then other people think it's because you stored the pie in a pie chest. So then somehow that became chess pie. I don't like that one. I like the idea of it being the Southern drawl that gives it its name. It's really, really easy to put together, but it actually started last night when I baked the pie shell. It was very simple. I took butter, flour, salt, pulsed that in a food processor, then added some ice water, combined it, put it in the fridge for about 2 hours, then pulled it out, rolled it out, then put it in my pie form, crimped the edges, and then baked it off until it had a light golden brown. That's what we ended up with here. The edges look sad and weird, but I know it's gonna taste really good, so I don't really care. So this is what we ended up with. And then now we just have to make the filling. So we're gonna start with 2 cups of sugar. There's an obscene amount of sugar and butter, like a Paula Deen amount of butter in this recipe. So you've been forewarned. To the sugar, I'm going to add cornmeal, some flour, just a little bit of salt, some melted butter, milk, 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, and some vanilla. Then just whisk everything together. Butter and sugar, butter and sugar. I have 4 eggs here, lightly beaten. And that's where you get the sort of custard filling. Then we just pour this in. And because my edges don't go all the way up to the top, it might run underneath. I think it'll be fine. All right, I'm gonna pop that in the oven and bake that for 50 minutes. Oh my God. How, there's a lot going on. Okay, I can explain. Okay, our chess pie, just pie, whatever you want to call it, has cooled, and we have a horrible crack in the center, but I am going to cover it with powdered sugar. Powdered sugar covers a multitude of sins, if need be. All right, let's cut her up. This is delicious. It tastes like a butterscotch pie or something like that. It's so rich. I don't know how much I could have of this, especially on a full stomach, but wow. That's incredible. That is it, guys. I genuinely feel like I outdid myself. This was a lot. This was probably one of the hardest movie and a dinners I've done, and it's mostly because of the grilling. It took so long. My feet hurt, my back hurts. I feel like this was a genuine labor of love, but it was so good from top to bottom. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Movie and a Dinner. Sinners is my favorite movie of 2025 so far, so I hope you check it out if you haven't. Let me know what I should make next. What's your favorite film? I'm curious what you suggest. Please don't make it too hard, because I'm already making it hard on myself. As much as I'm complaining, I actually had a really good time, even though my oven is a disaster. I broke my, okay, so these are the things that happened. I was pulling the pie out of the oven and I had my tripod nearby, so I thought if I just kind of leaned and tipped it out, I could get it, but what ended up happening is because the filling is not set, it's boiling lava, it spilled all over the inside of my oven. So I had to clean that. And I didn't do a good enough job because then I had to preheat the oven for the mac and cheese, and then it ended up smoking everywhere. Secondly, I was moving my very makeshift weight for my tripod. I basically just have a bag with some weights in it that I loop onto the bottom of my tripod so it stays super sturdy. And I was moving that bag away and somehow ended up tipping my tripod, and I broke my kit lens, which is really sad. But thankfully, I have a prime lens that I was able to swap it out with, and I was able to finish the video with that. So those are all my quandaries for today, but I made up for it by making myself a delicious meal and just having fun in my kitchen, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Okay, that's it. Oh my God, that's it. I'm so tired. And until next time, we'll talk soon.